welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, with Keelan. Hey, man, happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, brother. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Got a lot of thoughts in the old noggin right now, but we shall surely discuss those.
Surely shall we? Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Yeah, I want to begin this marvelous Wednesday episode by saying it's all about family, man. Glad to be doing this with you.
Yeah, like the Fast and Furious said, man. It's all about family.
Either your first or your last.
Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. We really appreciate it. Or anytime you're taking the time out of your day to listen to us, we appreciate you. So thank you so much. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Netflix movie that just came out, I think, last month, maybe a couple of weeks ago, called End of the Road, starring Queen Latifah, Chris Bridges. I have the cast here. Mikala Lee, Sean Dixon, Bo Bridges, and Francis Lee McCain. And it was directed by Millicent Shelton. It was also written by Christopher J. Moore and David Lowery. And so, yeah, we saw this on Netflix, and it's trending #1 right now in all of Netflix for movies.
Are you joking?
No, yeah, it's #1 right now in all of movies on Netflix. So
Okay,
of
Netflix.
course, seeing a legend like Queen Latifah, and also a legend, speaking of Fast and the Furious, Ludacris, Chris Bridges, we thought this movie was going to be a lot of fun. We watched the trailer and we're like, oh yeah, this looks interesting. So we decided to watch it, and tonight we're going to talk about this movie. I don't think I need a preamble. I think I'm just going to let Keelan give us his first impressions of this flick.
Oh man, yes, no preamble needed. I think we're definitely into the weeds enough to not need a spoiler warning.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think this movie started on a high note. Cinematography jumped off the page, as we discussed a moment ago. Off air style jumped out to you. I do feel like this particular director, they understand what they're trying to show you, but everything else we can have a discussion about. But they for sure understand what it is that they're trying to show you and which way to point the camera, what effects to use. Even I was very interested in the color patterns and the shading throughout the entire movie. There were some interesting colors of like the night times and things like that. Color schemes when it came to shooting in natural light or shooting between the trees. I saw a lot of between things being shot in this particular movie. So all of those things I enjoyed. I think all of those things are very enjoyable for most. The things I disliked, however, is what's going to fill in the rest of this episode. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, that's Keelan's first impression. I guess I think after watching this movie, I know what I have to do. Hold on just one moment.
Well done, sir. Well done.
My thoughts are no, I didn't really like this movie that much. I was kind of disappointed in the execution. I was disappointed in the storyline. I really like Queen Latifah. I think that she does good feel good movies, and that's kind of what I expected from this, was like a feel good movie, like, road trip family style stuff, getting into hijinks, which was reasonable and it could have been a lot of fun, but I don't think it delivered in any of that. There's blaring plot holes that just don't make any sense, and really the movie makes these plot holes pivotal to the story that otherwise the whole story would have never happened. So a lot of this whole story could have been avoidable, and it feels like it was contrived. I think that there's a twist that we'll talk about that really wasn't a twist at all. You know, and that's those are the things aside from the two very large inserted sort of forgive my phrasing, racially charged scenes that were in this movie that I noticed have no bearing on the actual story itself. It almost feels like they were literally surgically placed into the movie because if you watch both of those scenes again, they literally have no bearing on the story.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering what the whole point of them was in the first place. Those are my first impressions. Go ahead, Keelan. Sorry.
No, no, by all
Yeah.
means. It's funny. So I two things. We thought of this movie in two different ways. Um, you were looking for the feel good, and I totally understand how. Um, I was looking for more drama than suspense thriller, as they kind of threw it out there.
I was kind
Um,
of thinking it was going to turn into a thriller,
mhm.
but I don't think it did that very well either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it hit any of those marks on it either. But I was
Hmm.
definitely I was looking more for drama. I
Right.
know Queen Latifah has range when it comes to her acting skills, and I have my opinions about Chris Bridges, Ludacris, for those who don't know his real name. But Chris Bridges, I have my thoughts about him as an actor, and I'm not sure how far he can go with. I don't want to say technical work because that just sounds disrespectful as hell. But more serious work. I think when he gets to ad lib and play free, that kind of reflects well, just show his natural charisma. I don't think this was. I didn't never thought this was going to be one of those movies, so I was very interested to
Right.
see how that would play out.
Hmm.
Um, the scenes, um, the racially charged scenes, I think they stood as a testament to the strong black woman. I think that's what they were supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying I agree. I understand, but I don't understand the repetitiveness. Like there's a lot of different things out in the world that can be scary, detrimental, and that you can overcome.
Hmm.
But the same thing twice in one movie.
Yeah, it gets to a comic, like it gets
Yeah,
to a cartoon level with it, which I think is kind of I don't want to say lazy, but it's very contrite. And I think you could have woven in those things if you wanted to show them. There's tons of ways you could have done that.
mm,
You didn't have to literally run into two rednecks that decide to try to run you down on the side of the road and then literally run into a camp of neo Nazis.
if
Those
you don't,
and those two things don't even move the story at all. They
right?
are little closed vignettes inside the movie that if you removed them and then added layers and elements that were what you were trying to convey would have probably done a lot better.
I think so. Um, the if you take the first scene out, the first two, which over middle finger, you take that
Oh,
out,
right. Yeah.
you leave the second one in, it has more impact.
Yeah. Or yeah, absolutely. Yes. I mean, and honestly, to me, the thing that had the most impact wasn't even those two guys that were doing the cartoonish running the family down on an interstate highway that would have at least had one
Right.
car coming by. It was the gas station clerk that handed her the receipt. That was done in a way that was menacing enough to tell you that, oh shit, you need to be careful.
I thought
And
that's where it was gonna stop. That had me like, oh damn, that was deep.
yeah, and that was, I mean, the Trump stuff and all of that stuff when you pan out wasn't subtle. It was about as subtle as a sledgehammer. But the interaction between Queen Latifah and that teller, that was a lot better at portraying what they were trying to portray.
You know, I fully agree with that. I will say, um, there were a couple of things in this movie, not just those moments. I even think back to at the beginning, the original cartel moment with what was his name, Mr. Ruckus, or uh, the guy who ends up dead. But when he first double crosses the other guy, I
Right.
feel like there was even some level of unfamiliar tension there. You know, that was supposed to come off as like racially charged. The white guy that's a part of this seemingly from the beginning was seemingly um some cartel mafia type situation going on.
Hmm.
I thought that was also utilized in a way where you're automatically just going to assume that the drug dealers were Mexican or of Latin
Hmm.
descent at minimum. So
Yeah.
I do think that those elements were played up to. That's a great way to describe this movie. This movie has elements that are made to trigger you in all of the wrong ways.
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily. I mean, like to me, that feels like giving too much credit to somebody who clearly is just kind of repeating the same things we've seen over and again. If it
Fair.
was breaking a mold and it was showing us something we had never seen before, then I would tend to agree with you on that, to be honest. Like, yeah, be as uncomfortable as you want. This is your movie. You're trying to say something about it. Even if I don't like it, who cares? But like this is everything we've seen before. And it's cranked up to 11, man. It's cranked up to 11. It's
It's a
just
Yeah,
yeah.
it's 1,000% a repeat of a of assortment of movies that we've seen. I saw a lot of Quentin Tarantino somewhat in this, which I don't want to go too deep on that, but I saw
Mm,
some. I was really like, yo, I know exactly which movies you've seen. Um,
mhm.
at least two of the road moments reminded me of Natural Born Killers, and I was just like, come on, man,
There were
like,
some pretty panning shots too of the desert.
oh
Those
yeah,
were really nice.
yeah. I think like again for me, the shots that were chosen, camera shot, the cinematography wise,
Mhm.
I have no complaints from that area.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's fair enough. We want to be as objective as possible, but I think that there's. So let's just kind of jump into it. And I guess my one of my first issues is Mr. Chris, Mr. Ludacris. Um, he is 45,
Damn,
and
Luda
in this,
45.
I mean, he's got to be in his 40s. He's in his 40s. We know that for sure. But he is acting like a 20-year-old character in this movie. And
Yes.
it's very weird because it almost feels like Ludacris was added at the last minute and this role was meant for a younger person, because it
Possibly.
it doesn't make any sense that a character like him, who, first of all, they're military brats. Their father was a colonel, so
Right.
he's got tactical understanding, he's got combat skills, he's got street smarts. There's no reason that he would act this idiotic. None at all. And
I
the way that he casually walked up to his minor niece and just like hesitated to pass her the weed
Hey,
was
she
like,
walked
okay,
up to him.
no, I understand, but he's like 40 something. That would have been understandable if the uncle was like 26, like
Yeah.
in his 20s or something like that. Then it's like, oh, they're a little bit closer in age, so they have that. But he's, I mean, like
It's funny.
he should be an old head by now, being like, no, what the hell you mean you want some of this? What are you
Right.
talking about?
It's funny because that's one of the things that I looked at from an objective stance, just because I know so many black uncles. Um, the entire family dynamic was interesting because there is where they hit on a lot of strong, necessary points. The joint
Mm,
passing situation, I think that was something that has to be discussed a little more openly, which is there is always that family member who enables you, but at the same time is kind of trying to look out for you, maybe in the worst ways possible, but it's the best ways they know how.
mhm.
And what that means is by him passing her the joint in his mind, you know what? She clearly wants to try weed. I'd rather her try it with me. Oh, you only get one puff. Rather than, that uncle that passes you the cup when you want to try liquor versus letting you go out into the street and making this decision amongst people you don't know. That doesn't
I
make it
understand that.
acceptable.
No,
It
no,
doesn't
I,
make it
I, I
acceptable.
I get that, because that's definitely a mentality I have seen before, with people I know, and so like I don't necessarily poo poo it just because of that. I just felt like Ludacris he's a man, and this
You know what?
character this character was acting like a little boy.
That's a boy. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm leading with it is you have those family members as well. Those family members who, they have these mature stances and all of these skills per se, or even experiences, but their
Mm,
decisions still reflect that of someone who is immature.
mm,
Um, and that's where, because one of my questions from the beginning was he her brother or the husband's brother? Because that was going to matter.
right. Yeah.
From there, if either way, you're a grown man. Why are you moving with them?
I think he was just helping, right?
I don't know. It looked like they were all living together and he was moving with them.
I
But
think it would
possibly,
make I think it would make sense if it was Queen Latifah's brother, because then they'd be go see their mom,
right.
because that's where they're ending up going. So I guess
Now
it
that
would make
part,
sense that he would tag along,
right. Now that's when it did make sense when I realized, okay, they're going to her mom, which is fairly early still
Yeah.
fairly early.
Yeah, yeah.
When I did realize they were going to her mom, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's probably her brother then. And like you just said,
Hmm.
they're having a family trip in general.
Right.
But a lot of the family dynamic kind of jumped off the page. The irreverent teenager, not disrespectful per se, but she just has all of these moments where it's like, ugh, I want to fight back because I can, but
Yeah.
she typically
The
doesn't.
typical
And then
teenager.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then the little boy who's just curious to everything, and he's kind of experiencing this whole new world through the eyes of a road trip that went terrible.
Hmm.
So overall, as a family movie, there are some really strong dynamics that can go further, but "can" is the key word, and that's why I say
Yeah.
this started very well, in my opinion. When
Yeah. I
we
would
get
agree with that. I think the setup was nice. It was you could tell, like, Queen Latifah is her character's name is, I'm
Brenda,
so sorry, Brenda. Brenda, the loss of her husband, they had just lost their, father, struggling to pay the bills and having to leave and all of that stuff. Like, that's interesting, and
to
sort
find
of
out $46.
right. Yeah, seriously. Well, don't ask how they paid for all that gas, but yeah. No, but I thought it started off pretty strong too. I thought, like, all right, I'm in for the ride. I'm in to see what happens. And I think there's a good movie in here, to be honest. I think there is, but I just think that it wasn't developed enough. Like,
Yeah.
you needed more of the thriller aspect, like you said.
Right,
More of
and
that.
with you saying that, what this reminds me of, oh man, I'm sure there's a better movie hidden somewhere. It reminds me of, if you remember back, or if you ever knew of this. Some people I realized didn't know of this. Remember the movie Soul Plane with Kevin Hart?
Mhm.
There's two different versions of that movie.
Yeah, isn't the one with Snoop Dogg too? Or
Well,
is that a different one?
Snoop's in it in
Snoop's and
general.
Soul. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's in it in general. He's the pilot.
No,
So
I
he's
didn't
in.
know there was two. Wasn't there like a licensing problem?
I believe that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
So the original version was leaked, right? Back in those days where somebody
Right.
could just release something, and next thing you know, it's on the internet and it's not supposed to be, or however, it's in circulation and it's not supposed to be. So I believe, I don't know if it was still being shopped or whatever, but the movie ended up out and in circulation. And literally every person I knew around that time saw the movie. And
Mm.
we all got to a point where we all got, it was like Mandela effect. We started thinking like, nah, I remember seeing this in theaters, right?
Oh, right.
Like honestly, because it was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
good
yeah.
of a movie. But
Right.
then it comes out like maybe a few years later, or a couple, however long later, it comes out, it actually is released. And
Interesting.
when you
Yeah.
when you see the new product, you're confused. It's not the same movie.
Right. All the
And I think,
editing and yeah.
right,
Mhm.
all the editing, licensing, things like that, a lot of things have to change when other hands get involved. And I think this movie could be a victim of that. I think a lot of movies are victims of that. I'm not sure how much nowadays. It does seem like there is more of a free hand of creativity that is allowed to flow occasionally. But it seems a lot like, with the discussion we're having right now, like that could plausibly be where this movie ended up as well, somewhere in the dark recesses of the editing room, and this is the final product that we got.
Right, right. We got a comment here. Tishana Delward. He was her brother. Yes. Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks for your
Yeah, we
comment.
weren't
Yeah, we were.
right. Yeah, we weren't sure at the very beginning. At the very
Yeah,
beginning, I was questioning it because I thought that would be very important to the dynamic and how
definitely.
they
Yeah,
decided to go about how those characters interacted and what the story was going to be. So yeah, I enjoyed it being her brother more so than the concept of if it were his brother, because that just would have been. I think you would have had to add about 20 minutes to the movie of just nonsense to
oh,
make
he
it
would have gotten no
make sense.
leeway if it was the husband's brother. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he would
And
have got it would have been way less believable that she would have gone along with anything he would have
mhm,
said.
mhm. It'd have been
Yeah,
like, for what? Why are you putting up that don't make sense?
right.
That one don't add up.
Right.
Once they get started though, and I did like the beginning. You know, again, laying out, and I know I'm stuck in the beginning because to me that was really where it really jumped. But getting again those characters down, I feel like it was so pivotal. Seeing the little boy going through his "I don't want to leave, I miss daddy" role. Seeing the girl in her teenager, "I just want to grow up and be a be a teenager and be left alone" role. Uh,
Mm.
Again, I agree wholeheartedly. 40 something year old man, clearly, but acting like a child. But again, we all have those members of our family. And I think that's important because he showed up
Hmm.
when it was necessary. He definitely showed up. And I think that
Yeah.
was one of those important things. Like, hey, don't give up on those who we know have the capabilities. But all the way around, when you look at it, Brenda and Reggie, they grew up as military brats, 27 bases in 17 years. So her kids crying and being or complaining about moving, she don't care about. I think
Right.
uh, she was a lot more polite than I expected Queen Latifah to be as a mother.
Yeah, she's the most grounded character in this movie, pretty much. And that's saying a lot
Which,
because there's
right.
some wacky shit going on here.
And that's I'm sure that's really hard to do on a road trip with your children when all of the things that ensue. Listen, let's just say they weren't running from bears in the forest. That probably would have been a little funner than what they had to go through.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so he finds out that Mr. Cross's guys turn on each other. That's simple. It's the drug trade that happens. Um, the comment about hip hop history from the trailers, I expected to go so much further. When they were talking
Oh
about, oh,
yeah.
you don't know this rapper, and I wanted one of them to either say, you don't know Queen Latifah, or you don't know
Ludicrous.
Ludacris,
Yeah.
something of that nature. Like, oh, this is Ludacris. Like, and what you think, Queen? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I expected to be. I expected there to be a stronger reference than, yeah, I don't know hip hop history, and then just a pan of both of them in the shot at the same time.
Hmm.
Which still was brilliantly done. It was like that nod to, hey, look who we are. But I think that could have been done in dialogue with more flair. I would
Hmm.
have liked to, and I'm a hip hop head. What do you want from me? Of course, I wanted more flair from the hip hop nod, right? But once the road trip starts, it really takes a really dark turn after the detour. Like it's normal road trip stuff. Kids don't want to participate in the road trip because they're kids.
Yeah.
Brother sleep because he ain't driving and he's next up to drive, so he got to get his rest. Um, and the driver is always mad when everybody in the car is asleep. What is this?
Right.
What
Somebody talk to
am
me.
I? Yeah, like
Yeah.
who am I? Like I don't know. You don't think I'm about to have his music at a whisper and y'all sleep? Like come on now. But once that detour happened, my biggest issue my biggest issue with the detour was nobody pulls out Google Maps or MapQuest until after the whole situation with the Ignit dudes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Now we have MapQuest. Where was MapQuest to help us on this detour?
I mean, and you presume if it's a detour off of a major freeway, that detour is going to be flowing with traffic the entire time
Super traffic.
because everybody's going to be using it.
Right. And I have to say this for anybody who's driven from state to state, those kind of detours are very rare. And they typically
Right.
only
Yeah.
break down the lane. They're not guiding you into some old hicky town.
Yeah. They're
And
not
also
cutting
because
you
they
80
know
miles away from you.
right, and mostly
You're
because
right.
they know it's dangerous for city folk out in the middle of nowhere because we soft.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they don't want to have to go rescue you after your car
Yeah.
battery dies.
Listen, there are signs out in the on the long open roads, like on the trucker routes, right? That literally say no service for 67 miles. And you're like, excuse me? What do they mean, no service? Pick up your phone and look at it. That's what they mean.
That's
No
yeah.
service for 60. Like if your car break down at 67 miles, it's just you and the coyotes.
Hmm.
Have fun.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I thought the initial road trip scenes were decent enough. I think everything really just kind of falls apart. You know when everything falls apart? The moment Ludacris comes out of the bathroom and does a Friday reference. That's
I
when it
agree.
falls apart. That's
Ah,
when the whole story decides to like fall apart. I don't know.
I think that was the one of the first big cringe moments. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, don't you say 35 40 in 2 hours. Oh, it was a worse joke.
Right.
And you still go, you still talking?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And
Open
then
the
he
door to
said
the
it, and then
bathroom.
he had the Friday 2 reference where he says, I feel 10 pounds lighter, which is what the
Damn,
dad
I
says
never
in
he
Friday
did say
2.
that. I didn't even really put the two together, but you're right. He did.
It's
Yeah.
a back-to-back Friday reference for you.
Friday and then the next Friday.
Right.
Ugh. Yeah, well, that
Yeah.
happened. But and you know, here's my question to that. What is the reference? Like what is the actual reference? Because I hope it's not just you taking a poop.
I think that's literally all that. The only reason he said that was because it's a callback to Friday.
So it's another black man walking into a room with a woman and two children. Okay, I guess that would be the callback.
I mean,
But
he was just shy of the aerosol can, right? You know, just spraying
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
everywhere.
Jeez, you know it's funny because that's what I mean when I say there are a few moments in this movie where you can just jump out like, oh, I know exactly what movie you were inspired by.
Hmm.
Now that takes me to a question that I get excited when I see women directors. I do. It's a
Hmm.
new lens. It's a new perspective. It's literally something that I think we need more of in different avenues. Again, for me, the cinematography in this was amazing. Um, however, something I thought about recently, and I heard a female director say this, and it made me really reconsider some of the things I've seen from female directors. That is, what has influenced them? What are they used to seeing? This movie seems like a compilation of some of her favorite male directed scenes, still through a
Hmm.
male lens, but from her hand,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
And to be fair, I think that unfortunately that's what the machine demands of female directors.
And that's
It,
kind of what
it
I'm getting at. Like,
yeah.
is the heavy hand of control now no longer so much on just directors in general, but on a specific demographic to pump out a particular kind of art?
Well, it's it kind of just a facade, right? So, because it's like everything. Netflix is heavily involved in this movie, and obviously, I'm sure there was a committee of people who made creative decisions that weren't just the director. But like it just kind of becomes a facade almost, where it's just the corporation making something, but then they give you the female director so that you feel
Yeah,
like you're getting something, but they're not letting the female director pursue her art or try to find her particular vision, because it's a
right,
corporate machine. It's a giant corporation. You think that any director, even if it's a man, is going to get
right.
full creative control? No way.
No,
It's
no,
just
and
never
I
going to
can
happen.
right, and I can honestly, off the top of my head, I could probably name three other female directors alone, and maybe two male directors that I can actually say like everything you just said would make sense from their body of work versus their Netflix body of work.
Yeah. And it's really just that giant apparatus that doesn't allow creatives to necessarily fulfill their vision. That's why I do think that those racial scenes are kind of inserted, because
Mhm.
I think Netflix was unsure about those scenes, so they wanted them in a closed loop in case they needed to remove them.
Ooh,
I
dang.
think that that's what happened. Yeah,
Yeah, I can see
because
that.
they yeah.
Even the way that they're in they definitely almost look like they were clipped back in last minute.
Yeah, exactly. That was my whole point about that, is that you can definitely tell that it was a decision. Okay, put it back in. Put it back in. It's fine. It's fine. Netflix
Like
says
that
it's
might have.
okay.
This probably was a 2021 movie, and that was the red tape that got it to a 2022 movie.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
That's insane. Because just
Yeah.
and it's funny because you're right. You're absolutely right. You said that earlier, and I heard it. It didn't register the same as just going back over it just now.
Mm.
It didn't register
Yeah.
the same.
It just, you can clearly tell that those two particular scenes are so encapsulated that they could be removed with ease in case Netflix got froggy about the subject matter.
Which, you know what, Netflix, make a decision.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And you know, but if I'm being honest, and you know, we all watch a lot of Netflix. At this point, it's like the new PBS. But every time I watch a Netflix documentary, there's like a good portion of the documentary where you're watching and you're like, oh, this is good information. Then there's another portion, like a whole nother documentary inside the documentary where you're like, this is nasty.
Mm.
Like this absolutely does not need to happen. But I feel like we definitely just gave some industry thoughts real deep right there for a minute. So let's get back to the poo comments, because right after the poo comments, everybody decides they're gonna go to sleep. They have some snore jokes. I thought that was a really heartfelt moment as well. The
Mhm.
pillow fight with the family.
Yeah.
Expected that to go a little further as far as, you know, family dynamic and the jokes and things of that nature. Not a lot of ha-has there. And the next thing you know, they hear a scuffle, kerfuffle, and a pow.
Mhm.
This was the most unblack shit they did. I don't care if she's an ER.
I said the exact same thing, dude. I said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
If you're gonna leave that room, you leave to leave.
Right? Why on earth? And she had to preface it by saying, "I'm an emergency nurse. What if somebody's
No.
getting hurt?"
I know a lot of nurses. I think I only know one ER nurse. Maybe I
Yeah.
think I know one ER nurse. None of them would. Not
No,
a
man,
one of them.
no. Especially if you have kids
Mm-mm.
there. You would take your kids and you get in the car and leave.
You know
Forget
what?
it.
You know what? Being a nurse makes you a mandated reporter, not an EMT technician.
Right. Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that was hilarious. I just kept thinking to myself, no, nuh-uh,
okay.
uh-uh.
So you're saying no? I was laughing because I'm like something goofy about to happen, and they about to dip, and nothing goofy happened. I
No.
started to feel like I was watching a stupid episode of Dexter for a minute.
I did feel kind of like that a little bit. Yeah,
Like
definitely
you,
did.
I want to feel like there's maybe 2 or 3 episodes of Dexter like that where some rando just walks into a blood scene, and it's usually a Dexter murder, but
Right.
some rando walks in, and then you always know in his mind it's, so do I have to kill a stranger or am I going to get away with this?
Yeah,
And then he
every
stalks
time.
him and kills him like within the hour,
Yeah.
while things are still messy and he can clean up. But
That's
either
pretty
way,
much every episode of Dexter. Yeah.
and it's good every time.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. I like it.
But yeah, then
It would never happen.
it
It would
just wouldn't.
never happen.
It just wouldn't.
And then the next most unbelievable thing that happens,
He pauses when he sees the bag.
which is ridiculous, because look, this guy comes out of a lowrider. He knows some street stuff. He's smart enough.
You hope.
He is a military brat, so obviously his father gave him good tactical advice and sort of life knowledge, and I'm sure he knows
what?
his tactical tactical advice and life knowledge, and I'm sure he knows his way around a gun. Why
Or
on
12.
earth, right? Why on earth would somebody like that look at a duffel bag at a murder scene and be like, "I think I'm going to take that"?
No.
Couldn't be a problem with
I'm gonna take these
that.
towels. I'm gonna zip it open. I'm gonna scoop that out and shove it in my pocket. I'm gonna take these towels. I'm gonna zip it
Now,
back. I'm gonna
see,
bring
there
these
you
out.
go. Absolutely. I like
If
that.
I'm in a
See,
movie,
that's smart. That's
right?
smart.
Because now you got to figure out if I took the money.
Right.
But in a movie where I take the identifiable bag,
Yeah.
like I don't know, there are certain things um that weren't conducive of the pervasive black intellect
Well, speaking of,
or anybody who knows their way around the world.
and this happened before we even get to the hotel moment with back with the two rednecks in the truck.
Okay.
There is no you cannot convince me that two military brats would ever not be carrying the thing on them.
Thank you.
Ever.
I'm glad you went back to that because I had that down and I forgot to mention that. They
Why?
had no,
How? Exactly how? Right? Like
now, and unless here would have been a great way to explain it though.
hmm.
You have Brenda at the beginning of the movie when she goes to pay for gas at the gas station. You have her before she goes home go to a pawn shop and pawn her pistol
That would have been good.
because it makes no
Yeah.
sense for her to not have one unless she
Yeah.
had to get rid of it for the funds.
I like that.
Then I don't ask that
I like
question.
that. Right.
But most of this movie, I'm questioning why do same thing you just said. Why do neither of the military kids have a gun? Like
Right.
I understood at a point, like okay, Brenda might think it's unsafe to have guns around her children, so she's moved away from that. Explain to me why Reggie don't have a gun.
Right. Exactly.
Reggie should have that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not understanding.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense. She could have had those dudes dead to rights while they were outside of their truck if she just had her thing on her.
And with you saying that, when she saw the rifle, I'm thinking like, oh, it's about to go down. Like I thought that was gonna be our first hand-to-hand combat moment where we was gonna
Right.
find out, like, oh, she got them equalizer hands in this one.
Right. Yeah.
Which I was expecting a little more from that. I thought the entire point of bringing up their military upbringing was to excuse and explain the fact that they both was gonna be kicking ass
Right.
because
I
it's
did
supposed to be
too.
an action flick.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
No, definitely.
when they showed that hunting rifle, I'm like, oh, one of these young boys is about to get bad, and she gonna have to break an arm or something, leap in there and grab that thing. It's about to go down.
Or just pull out her concealed carry and she would have been totally fine.
You think she had
Everything
one
would
of
have been
them
good.
them little deuce joints?
Yeah, of course. Come on.
I mean, you know, but as long as the bully goes in, you know, we ain't really worried about what they do to your insides and all of that. That ain't my problem.
Hey man, sometimes it is advantageous to make sure you are protected in case rednecks try to run you off the road. You know,
Twice.
twice. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, and that's really my thing. All the things that let's just say it that way, all the things movies have taught us about guns. I think this been a great movie to have a gun in.
It would have been really nice. Yeah.
You know
Yeah. It would have solved a lot of their problems.
it would have just wholeheartedly. Now once they're getting through all of that though, when they're at the diner when they're at the motel and her son asked the question about the boys, you know, like first, are we homeless? I thought that was actually a great question from a child to ask their parent when they're going through what they're going through, because it's important to find out how is she feeling, because how she articulated that to him would define, you know, what she's really going through. And she didn't seem down in spirits. She seemed to understand that shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we gonna bounce back from this and rise from the ashes like a phoenix. No problem. I got you.
Yeah.
I got that notion of an adult who is trying to figure it out, but a strong figure to be a role model.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that a lot. What I was confused by is how you can have this this air of humble and confidence, and you can't find any better way to articulate what occurred on that road. They were just mean white boys. I'm not even tripping on you because of the actions and the way they went. There's another word that would be used if they were black men. White boy is the word that will be used for their actions in that scenario. However, when you're talking to your kid, there has to be a better way to articulate the ways of the world, because while that was a singular occurrence, you're not giving him any tools on how to solve that or how to
Yeah.
deal with it.
I think it would have been appropriate had those white boys just made some sort of snide remark when they passed by at the gas station, then that was it. And then he asked about it later.
Make
He
it
was like,
teachable.
what did they mean? And then she's like, they were being mean and, explain it a little bit. But yeah, explaining it away as mean white boys doing what mean white boys do. It's like,
Huh? Boys will be boys, huh?
the simplicity of that statement is shocking. It's shocking because it's such a simplistic thing that really doesn't explain anything. It's really not telling you anything.
It literally describes the situation, but it doesn't
Yes.
explain the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was my only real issue with it. It was like, okay, because I thought she was gonna elaborate. I thought she said mean white
Right.
boys being mean white boys, and I was like, okay, pause. Now here comes the long winded explanation, and then we just moved on. I was like, wait, I miss Daddy. Wait, no, we supposed to.
No, we don't have time. We got to keep it tight.
Shit.
90 minutes. 90 minutes.
And I have to say the reason I bring up some of these things and I feel a way about it is because I don't believe that you bring up some strong, interesting, and caring points that are important to society to that level, and you don't dive in on those, but you dive in on the stereotypes.
Yeah, because they're easy. It takes a thoughtful person to really flesh out those like hard things to talk about for sure.
Super hard things to talk about. I think that's why I'm always
right. I agree with you though. But I just think that the leaning into the stereotypes things almost feels like counterproductive to the whole point of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable for you to feel that way if you watch this movie, unfortunately, just because it's so cartoonish, man. I have never seen such cartoonish white people. I mean, like it's fine to satirize white people. It does not bother me in the least, but this made me laugh out loud by how ridiculous everybody was being. Yeah. It was incredible. It was incredible.
I was just gonna say it wasn't no tobacco spitting, but it was some regular spitting. So
yeah, just spitting everywhere. Then you have the shady white maid that for some reason peeps you going to your room and then was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna steal from her."
Well, she was a redneck as well.
Yeah, but there's no reason that she would just target her. Why would you do it? The only reason that
I assume she would target everybody. I didn't think it was an isolated thing. I think she was done with her shift almost because she had hit everybody that was there that she could, and she saw a new customer walking in and was looking to see how long.
Maybe you should have shown a scene of her stealing somebody else's stuff instead of her just popping out a door and then looking slyly like you were waiting for her or something.
And then going back to dancing. Because I did think that too. I initially thought she was like a rival cartel carrier who knew what the bag looked like. And that's why I brought up the identifiable bag. Because that's what I originally thought. Like, oh, snap. This is about to turn into the rat race. Also, would have been a really nice turn.
That would have been interesting. Yeah.
That was the business. But again, with the reminder of other movies, while I was thinking in that moment it could turn into Rat Race, at the exact same time, another one of those moments I was thinking it could turn into kind of like one of those espionage kind of spy flicks where we find out that Brenda got, Brenda got a background, or her and her brother have a background. It was like a tag team duo or something. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just embellishing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there could have been a lot of opportunity to sort of flesh out. I think, and like this is, it's not a dig at the director. I don't know if maybe this just was too many hands in the pot and she wasn't able to complete her vision in the way that she wanted to. But it definitely feels like, huh?
I say sometimes you have to question, are they ever?
Oh yeah, I know. I don't know. I have no idea. But it did feel a little bit like, okay, yeah, I don't think that I don't know, you did just lean too heavily into the easy stuff. Everything was just so like on the surface, commentary on the surface that was just throwaway commentary. You know what it felt like to me? and I'm going to say this, and it's going to be maybe an unpopular idea. It felt like to me a caricature of everything a coastal liberalish person feels about any place that's not a coastal city. Like everybody was cartoonishly racist and awful, and like it was so over the top, and it felt like a personal dig because we've had so many Californians leaving to California, going to Texas. It almost felt like Netflix made this movie to discourage Californians to going to Texas. Like, I don't know.
Or to excuse the journey. So
Or
you
to
saying
excuse
that
right.
just made me think this movie is to excuse all the Californians that came to Texas and started acting like ass. They don't speak to nobody. They don't do nothing because on their way down there,
Right.
they were terrorized.
That's
Um,
right. That's
and
right.
I get that from when they get to that diner and the lady
Mhm.
is handing out the food to everybody and nobody says thank you except for Reggie because he has a pocket full of money.
Mhm.
I promise you, I was sitting here like, so nobody gonna say thank you. I'm sorry. That's I would
But
say this on record. As a
yeah.
culture, we are taught that shit. That's not
Yeah,
an option.
absolutely.
You get
Please and
smacked in
thank you.
your mouth, man.
I had a grandma. I know.
Yeah, facts.
Shit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Grandma
It's like
don't play.
none of that. So it's those kind of things, and then I had to reflect upon. First off, she wasn't even. I want to make this clear. She was wearing that was not a Puerto Rican flag apron because I'm sure some people would see it and think that was a Texas apron. That's number one.
Mhm.
Number two, no, they did not speak to her because that was a white lady. That was a Spanish lady. That was somebody's abuelita. Okay,
Mhm.
so it don't make sense. There is no reason.
Yeah, it just also feels like this family's just gonna have Reese's popping up everywhere they go. Like even they made it to their safe spot, they're still gonna just like pop up out of the bushes.
They're gonna get to mom's house and Cross
Right.
Jr. gonna be there.
Right. Also, could we talk about the idea that you just Reggie is in dire health. There Reggie needs hospital assistance.
Oh, from the
He
stabbing.
Yes, he needs to go to the hospital. He's going to die. I kept saying that at the end of the movie, like, take him to the hospital, you guys. Take him, please. He's bleeding. He
Well,
got stabbed 4 inches in the abdomen. That's gonna
man,
do something.
those were shears. Those were not
Right.
scissors. Those were
No.
shears. For those who don't know the difference, just Google it. You'll see the difference immediately.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
like honestly, for those who really don't know the difference between shears and scissors, Google that, and then come back to this podcast and go, "You
Yeah.
right."
Yeah.
In the liver.
Yeah, pretty much in the liver. Yeah.
Wait. Let me see. Yeah, no, that was a liver shot. Yeah, in the liver.
Pretty much.
Come
Yeah.
on, son. Wait, is the no kidney, pancreas? Yeah, liver's on this
It
side.
would have definitely punctured something. Just, for sure.
A couple of things got punctured the way he didn't bleed enough. Never mind. You know what? Now I'm just being too.
Yeah.
Now I'm being over the top. I apologize, Mrs. Shelton.
And her dog has and her daughter has a dog bite. And she needs to go get a rabies shot.
Oh yeah, I forgot she got. All right, she out of line.
Right.
They
Take
out
them
of
to
line
the
for
hospital.
these wounds. Yeah, that's out of line. I mean, I was out of line a minute ago, but they out of line.
Like, this isn't the Avengers. You guys need to go get medical care.
Hey, Ray, the Avengers even have the team that comes. Remember? Don't forget.
Yes, that's right. The
They have a
cleanup
cleanup
team.
crew, a medical team, and all of that.
Right.
Everybody is not super strong and impervious.
Right, exactly.
Some people are like a peacemaker and got to go to a special hospital to recover.
So how long did it take you to find out who Mr. What's his name?
Cross.
Mr. Cross was?
It took me until the cops arrived at the hotel.
Oh, so subtle too, Cross. I didn't even put that together. Good Lord. Oh my God. Why?
Because he's the one that's going to cross her.
Well, he's also the one that's probably burning them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that as well.
Right.
I didn't even put that one together. You're right. Yep.
Yep.
All of those things.
All of those things.
Yeah, a lot of things. You had this officer, the state trooper, who I'm the captain of the Arizona State Trooper. Why your ass ain't in the office?
Right. What are you doing
What you
on
doing
a
out here?
at a motel at a homicide? Yeah.
On a wait. And how you know it's a drug thing? How
And
you know the
he
dude
knew the
ain't
whole story. He told us the whole story
everything?
while he's walking in there.
When he said, "Oh, that's so and so and so and so," and he does and he works for this person, and oh, it must have been a drug thing. I'm like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. Like
Right.
either he's the bad guy or he's working for the bad guy. And then it was after that, it was something else that he said. The sheriff or the state trooper, when he was called when he called them off their off a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
When he called the cop off her tail, I'm like, oh, it's for sure him. Like, or
Yeah.
he for sure on payroll. Um, so yeah, that wasn't as much as it hidden as they wanted it to be. If anything, it was more annoying that we didn't know from the gate. I think it would have made his character more interesting.
I think so too. I think they could have actually expanded that dynamic a little bit more with Mr. Cross and had him um, maybe even not tell, maybe let it be the twist, but have him be more involved with helping the family. Like,
Yeah,
I
not
don't
just
know.
the little moment they played it up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because the moment he was like, oh no, I need them back here, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Well,
And he seemed
I know who you are now.
right, and he seemed irritated by it, but he wasn't adamant about it. But he was
Yeah.
persistent.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, they left. You got their statement. Why do you need them back? Oh, now you're gonna call and I need you to come back here, and I'm gonna be all nice and humble pie, and it's gonna work. No, it's not.
No.
No, sir, that's not. Mm-mm. No.
I'd like to know how much money is in there too. Because
Not gonna speculate.
my eyeball probably 250,000.
Oh,
Not
if we
that
yeah,
much.
okay, if we want to play the eyeball game, depends on
Th-
what kind of bills those were. If those were hundreds, maybe. I
I
doubt those
think
were hundreds.
I think they were in 10,000 bundles. So Ludacris brings out about 8 racks.
About 80.
Yeah, so he's probably got about 80 from the stack. I
If
think
those
it's
were
like
all hundreds, then yeah.
250,000.
If those were all
Yeah.
hundreds, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. If they were 20s, about 100.
100,000. Yeah. Which is really not that much for a cartel member or a boss like that to get all up in arms about.
Man, that old dude wasn't no boss.
I mean, they said he owned the city and that
Everybody was.
he murdered 50 people.
Nick, you do realize that he was a drug trafficker in a town of less than 3,400 folks.
That's fair. But I mean, I would still think that if you're trafficking drugs, 100 grand is like an accounting error
For sure.
at some point.
For, I mean, if he is, listen, we seen his home. He apparently is a state trooper. State trooper ain't far than that.
Mm-mm. No,
So that's
of
one.
course not. Yeah.
But at the same time, he still lives on the backside or excuse me, the top side technically of Arizona, but like hidden clearly on the backside of the Grand Canyon or something. I don't know because clearly they ain't no civilization out there. Nobody passing through or nothing.
No.
Um, who is he selling this dope to?
I don't know. Truckers,
Nah, that's
the
the Nazis.
Aryans, maybe the
Right,
Nazis. Yeah.
the Aryan Nazis that are working for him. I don't know if that's even. I don't know if that even works the way I said that. But anyway, not my thing, so I wouldn't know. Um, but yeah, all of them, I believe, work for him. That's why they were afraid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Now they may
Yeah.
not know who he is, but by way of they get a creepy little call, and if they don't do what they told, then somebody pops up dead.
Yeah, I mean that was incredibly dumb. Queen Latifah taking on 8 people. 8.
Oh, you didn't know
8
how
people.
strong she was?
I'm still having a hard time with Queen Latifah becoming an action star with like the Equalizer and stuff. It feels like it came out of nowhere. Did she?
Yeah,
I mean, she's done actiony stuff before, but
I
like,
liked her in Taxi,
yeah, Taxi was a fun one.
but that's a comedy. I think that's the. I think
Yeah.
that's actually what isn't translating for us. Queen Latifah in a action comedy works.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Queen Latifah in action thriller.
might be a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, and in my defense, maybe in our defense, something I thought about was I love Queen Latifah. Don't be
Mhm.
trying to throw punches and shoot at her.
Right. Yeah. Pretty
Like, oh, you
much.
you
Yeah.
serious? Are you trying to kill the queen? Nah, son, you
I
can't.
don't even know. Yeah.
Paul, oh, the bullet hit her. Pause. We got to stop here. I don't know if I can finish this. She might not make it.
Yeah, that was a little bit out there. And then that was one of those scenes that you could have extracted and it
Mhm.
would have made no difference to the story.
Right.
So it
Um.
makes it feel weird as to why it's even in there, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So you have Cam. Her son gets abducted by Mr. Cross, and then she turns
Mhm.
around and gets abducted by Nazis or rednecks. I don't even. They never really had an identifier, huh? Anyway,
Yeah.
a bunch of idiots with
Yeah.
swastikas tattooed on their chests and hooping and hollering at the top of their lungs because they live in the
Yes.
middle of the mountains. I honestly started thinking like, when was this shot? 1994.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
but when she's kidnapped by all of them, and then old girl who she again, your military training doesn't teach you to, or your training by your father, he didn't teach you to pay attention to your surroundings, watch your peripheral. You just
Or
let
the
old girl
or the pit maneuver.
something
Could have
like
you could have disabled her car pretty easily if you used the
in
pit
a long
maneuver.
time before she got to that
Yeah.
turn.
Hmm.
Um, but so she lets her get the bat. Okay, cool. She got it. She boom, clanked her out.
Again, should have been a gun.
She made a gun somewhere,
Yeah, should have been a gun.
but clanks her out. All right,
Yeah.
cool. She wakes up. They have her bonded, and she starts fighting back. Real Bahabali moment.
Yes, yes. But not in the sense that it I mean like it's not over the top where you know that they understand that it's over the top. It was meant to be like kind of sincere. Like the thickness of the zip ties that she had on were gigantic. They were probably about half-inch thick zip ties. And
Mhm.
she uses a meth pipe, which is made of like the thinnest gauge of glass to cut that zip tie. There's no way you're going to use a meth pipe to cut a
I'm
zip tie.
I'm glad one of us caught how she broke the zip tie because I was like, oh, she must have just kept punching so much that eventually it snapped.
Just
Which I was
raged out of
thinking,
it.
right? Which I was thinking in my mind, this was what I was thinking. Her wrist has to hurt.
See, that would have been such a better movie, to be honest, if Queen Latifah was like a sleeper spy that had
I'm
just had a
telling you,
family
I was
and like
waiting for it.
she was just relocating her family and then she gets activated and just starts like going. That would have been really good. I like that.
You ain't gonna mess with
Yeah.
my family. And then she hold,
Yeah.
she hold the gun and look at it like she did and set it off just to give us that moment.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
That would have been great. That
We
would
would have
have
been
been really
sitting
good.
here hooping. We would have been sounding like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dudes. Woo! We would have
I would
sounded
have
just
been
like
all
them.
for it. Yep.
But
Just have a bazooka in one scene. That would have been amazing.
something, yeah, give her
Yeah.
a Rambo moment. Like it could have been a super unrealistic. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
It didn't
Who
have to be
cares?
realistic. It just
Mm-mm.
wasn't entertaining enough. It was like all of these elements that could really make something well, and instead of going further, it was like, all right, that was a good thought. What's the next thought?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that just got old fast. Um, Also, while she's fighting the entire group as she breaks out of her zip ties and then she gets the shotgun, but the whole time she's screaming bloody murder while she's kicking their ass.
Yes, she is. That's where she gets her power from. You gotta hiya. When you
I'll give you
punch.
that. I can't even argue that. Like Venus and Serena when they
Yes, you gotta exert
ah!
that. Yes, you gotta
Got
get
you.
that chi flow going. Yeah.
I can't argue that. That's iconic right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's one
It
of those
is.
pivotal things you can't get rid of. So yeah, she's screaming bloody murder, but eventually she does mention that's Mr. Cross's money.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, oh, oh, hey, put the money back. You heard what? Did you hear what I meant? You put that money back? Dang, bro, y'all hard headed. Here you go, ma'am. Please
Mm-hmm.
don't tell them that we spit on you and treated you like garbage.
Yeah, and we're gonna kill you. And yeah. Uh-huh.
Because if you come back, we'll kill you, like it was real life hyena and Simba moment, 1,000%.
Mm,
But once that all goes down, I mean, the movie at this point has already taken the wrong turns 1,000 times, but we take another turn because now that Mr. Or we still know him as Captain Hammer. Now that
mm.
Captain Hammer has Reggie and Kelly with him, and they're all following along because he's an officer and he's trying to help. And they go on back to his house and meet his wife. I know immediately what's going on because he's still got this nice big old home that almost looks like he has weed trees also out front.
Maybe.
He has this nice big old home for a state trooper. That don't add up. And you ain't
Yeah.
going looking for the money and looking for their mama who they just told you was kidnapped. That don't add. Or excuse me, brother who they just told you was kidnapped. That don't add up, Mr. Police Officer. Oh, because he's in your trunk. And
Right.
also, what kid was not, well, never mind, I'm gonna say wasn't trained, because who was trained to do this? But what kid's not thinking to themselves, oh, the car's moving, I'm just gonna kick the back seat and stuff and make as much noise as I can. Like,
Kick the
bruh,
tail light out. Always.
something. Yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know. He's a little kid. I don't know if he would know about kicking the tail light out.
Or
But
it would just make noise. Yeah.
yeah,
They would
yeah,
have
my
been
at
able to
least
hear you.
something. Kids ain't quiet when they sleep. How he quiet when he kidnapped?
So what was the car that was following them
No
on the
car. There apparently was no car. That was just a random truck on the road. And that was his way, if you ask me, of making sure he wasn't being followed.
mm,
Um, so that when he took them to his home, nobody knew where he lived. Because what, again, my theory is while he might be the captain of the police squad, I don't think anybody knows he is who he is. So I think he operates in the shadows as
yeah,
Mr. Cross.
right.
And I think that's
Yeah.
more so what that was because he knew he was going to do something sinister, make sure he ain't being tailed or nothing of that nature. If
Yeah.
I got to shoot somebody in front of him, I got to do that. But in their mind, it's a good cop doing his job, trying to protect them.
It's so funny. It's like that when they got to the house, just reminded me of like racist versions of Courage the Cowardly Dog. The two old people
Yeah,
in
a
that.
little bit. A little bit.
Just,
Yeah.
and I get to the point where I'm like, okay, come on, Ludacris, just knock these people out already. Like,
I'm glad you said it because that's where I'm getting to. That's why I wanted to make sure we talk about being at their home because him and his niece, they down there, they bust a window. She
mm,
get bit by a rabbit dog who,
mm,
again, now this dog, if he's really trying to comfort them, why did he stop at the glass or why did he stop
right.
at the window?
He wouldn't have let go, that's for
And
sure.
he's already bitten her, so now he has a taste for her blood. Bruh.
Mm.
A taste for her blood. It's not happening. It's not happening. And that dog looked mean.
Yeah, that's
Granted,
definitely one of those dogs that's meant to attack people.
yeah. Now, granted, it's an actor dog, so it's made to look that way. Ooh, but it's
Mm,
still an animal who simulation just bit and drew blood.
yeah,
It's not stopping. It's definitely gonna get a bloodlust immediately because it was
yeah,
already angry when it came from bit you.
yeah, or at least try to get through the window. Obviously,
Yeah, I would
continue
assume
to
it's
get
gonna
at you.
try to get through the window, maybe cut itself on glass or something of that nature. Which,
Hmm.
if that's the thought that I'm having, I can understand why they didn't go any further with it because that would have been our next statement. Oh, but you mean to tell me that dog gonna slide through and not get cut on the glass?
All right, that's true.
So
That's
it's like
very
you know
true.
what?
Yeah,
I'd rather have the complaint I have if we're being honest.
right,
Um,
right. But yeah, then Ludacris, who he's a decently sized individual. He should be able to take on two 70-year-olds. But he does none of the fighting.
no, the kids
It's
do
the
all the fighting.
kids that do all of the fighting.
Little man pulls the bleach and blinds him. Clorox, and I was like,
Right. I don't know. I mean,
I mean, because
it's
he looked up and
possible.
looked directly into it, yeah, but
Yeah, then
outside
he
of
should
that,
be permanently blind.
permanently
If
blind.
yeah.
Not, oh, I could see, I could see what I'm aiming, shoot what I'm aiming at. What, sir? No, you can't. Not with Clorox.
Yeah, that which you should not be able to see so
And,
quickly
and be
afterwards.
lucky it's Clorox, because if it was that HDX bleach is like jail.
Right. And
That's
you didn't even pour anything to balance the pH. You have to like pour milk in your eye to
something,
balance the acid.
something. No, just good old hard faucet water.
Hmm.
That was well water, Nick.
That'll
We
do
don't
it.
know.
Right.
We
It's
don't
the
know. That was
minerals. It's
well
the
water,
minerals.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, so yeah, once they escape, they get the old folk down there, which was again, bro. I'm killing y'all.
Right. Right.
I know I
Yeah.
can't call the police because you's the police.
Right.
So yeah, and there's no way anybody's coming looking for me here because they think you's the police. They don't think you are who you are.
Yeah. They would have no reason to suspect
Mm.
that I was even there.
So let's
Yeah.
go ahead into this basement. Go ahead and do this thing execution style. I guess I just became Mr. Cross. Let me find you safe.
I mean, that's a free and clear, to be honest. And but
It's
then
a movie.
the
Embellish.
movie, the movie then tells me that a 70-year-old can break through a reinforced door,
I'm glad. Yeah,
with
I
his
was trying to.
leg.
Yeah, I was really. I haven't even written down "old man kicks down beam" because I wasn't sure exactly how to word that or even how to get to that. But yeah, he's getting out and he's kicking it, and he's. I was like, man, he is getting some weight on that door, but he ain't gonna budge it. And then I was like, wait, this is
Yeah,
a movie. He's gonna blow through it like Thor.
of course. Yeah.
True enough, here came Milnor straight through the inside. Now, and I think that was probably the closest thing to somewhat realistic. If you're gonna have an old man busting down the door, I would assume that it would be weak hinges. But
Yeah.
that beam
I
across the
mean,
door, that's the part that you don't make sense for me.
oh yeah, yeah. It would have to come off at the hinges, but then the hinges would have been extremely weak. I don't know.
Yeah, he's
It,
old. What was he gonna do? Put up a new door?
it
All these kind of things I would have had play into him being able to get out of there.
the movie just needs him to get out of the basement. They need
That's
to get
it.
out of the basement. Come on, come on. We just got to get them out,
We
and because
just
they
gotta
got
keep
to,
him out.
we got to get into the purple rain night sky that just
Right.
like came out of nowhere.
Now you gotta give him a ooh, wow, that was gonna be so wrong. Now you gotta give him a RoboCop leg.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they go chasing after the family again, in the most cartoonish way you could think of, shooting
Mhm.
shotguns at them.
Yeah, just spreading buckshot everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's
Everywhere.
hitting no one.
No one. Yet Queen Latifah takes 2 shots and disables their car. Complete. Like, and I'm like, you mean to tell me she's an amazing shot too? Why doesn't she
Yeah,
have a gun?
because she
Why
knows
hadn't
she's too
she?
dangerous.
She's too dangerous. Oh,
She got a particular
she's
set of
nerfing
skills.
herself. She's
Yeah.
nerfing herself. That's what it
And
is.
you wouldn't want her to be so good, would you? We have
Right,
to leave
right.
something to the imagination. And in their defense, yep, we would have ripped you for it, but at least it would have made this more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely would have. Because as it stands, this is the first time we see her handle a gun, and she disables a car by shooting the headlight and then shooting exactly where the driver's perspective is on the windshield, so that the driver
Right,
couldn't see.
right. Exactly where she needed to shoot. Now, I did think the coolest part was after they lose control, um, and she throws the flare in there. I don't
Mhm.
understand why the wife is reaching for the flare. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, she
I
was
also
driving, right?
right. I also don't
Yeah.
understand why she has a shotgun facing her.
Yes, propped up like that. Yeah. I
That
think they wanted it to look like the way the cops have it, but the cops have it stored back and away. They don't have it right there at the dash for somebody to put their face in front of.
right, and I think that's they were also hinting at the old backwoods type deal where you just got open guns. Everybody got their guns out. They
Mhm.
sitting on the seat. They on the dash. They are what they are. They ain't really hurting nobody, and ain't nobody out there trying to hurt each other. Most of them are actually hunting.
Mhm.
Um, I think they were trying to give the impression that they live in that type of a community as well.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
So
This is a great movie for Arizona tourism. I'm sure everybody's going to want to go see Arizona now.
if I'm Nevada or Arizona, I'm a little pissed off at what this
R-
movie did for that
Right.
particular reason. And the only thing that I think is interesting is on the way to Arizona, you run into a big detour of that nature when we literally had a whole sinkhole on that exact route in real life to Arizona.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like what, a month ago, 2 months ago,
Well, I
something
don't
like that.
remember when, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
it was recent.
remember.
It was recent.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, so I thought that was interesting, just reflecting back to that. But overall, the way that they were killed, the hammers, that was pretty cool. At least I'll say that. What did we get? A total of 4 bullets to the head. Well, no, excuse me,
Yeah,
3 bullets to the head, one through
yeah.
the neck.
Hmm.
So all of the action was done pretty well. But again, that's a nod back to what I've been saying this entire episode about the cinematography was done well. And when I did my homework looking into the director, she's done a lot of action television.
Right.
So yeah. Um, so yeah, after that, that's pretty much it though. They the majority of the money burns up with
Right.
the hammers, which made me sad because why? But the majority of the money did burn up. But as we find out once they get to the diner in Texas, Tejas, um, Reggie did keep him some money. And as we surmise, if those are hundreds, about 80,000. If those are 20s, about 8,000. It's that drastic.
Yeah.
Like it's that
It's
drastic of a difference.
yeah. At the most, they got 80,000 of drug money that they're going to,
Dope.
you know,
That
which
they're gonna
is
divvy up. Is that what
fine.
you said?
You
You
know.
broke up a little.
Oh, sorry. I know my internet's being really spotty. Hold on, just a sec. So they got $80,000 of the drug money, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure nobody's going to be looking for that. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
cares.
for sure. The majority of it
Yeah.
burned up with the owner.
Right.
So you know
Right.
that would have been Mr. Cross's Louis Vuitton money for his wife.
I think it doesn't really send the. I think it sends a kind of cynical message, though. I think it kind of would have been better if they came upon that money in a different way.
Mhm.
If they still ended up with some of the money, but it somehow just ended up with them. Like maybe the cop sees it, and then
Let it
because it
go.
doesn't go claimed, they get it back. You know what I mean? Like
That'd have
they
been
could
cool.
have had something like that. It just in a way that doesn't make them complicit in a criminal activity that caused people to be murdered.
You're right.
You
Absolutely.
know, like,
Well, and I think that was one of the points with Reggie was to kind of prove like he didn't learn shit.
right? Yeah, I know he didn't
And
learn anything.
right. And while he wasn't per se wrong at the end, because there was nobody to give it to, like that's
No,
done.
yeah.
But yeah. Come on, bro.
Yeah, and then you're sitting there with $80,000 on a diner table. Just probably should put that back
Can
in
I
your
can
pockets.
let me, I will say out loud what I said when I was watching the movie. I said, word, I don't know nobody that's gonna take out more than 20 in the middle of a random diner I've never been to. My like, bruh,
Right.
no. I'm
No.
not pulling out
No.
more than what my bill is. Matter of fact, if I
Right.
think I got too much cash on me and I've never been here, I'm just gonna pay with card.
Hmm.
I'm
Oh
not even
yeah, yeah.
pulling out my cash. Why?
Yeah,
Because
you
I don't know.
only have the bill that you're going to use, and if you have other
Yeah,
cash, that's in a different pocket. You don't even touch that pocket.
you hope. I mean, you
Yeah.
hope they were taught some. I mean, clearly Reggie wasn't taught that by his military father.
Right. Again, this is why it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe that was his. Nope, no, I would be wrong if I said that out loud. Yeah, I
Mm.
know what I was gonna say though. The other
Hmm. Hmm.
parent.
Right.
um, but yeah, for the most part though, everybody does agree though that there is nobody to return it to, and the kids are like, "Yo, mama, you got to chill out. Like we keeping the money this time. Like it is what it is." And
Hmm.
I feel like if that's the case, then we should have kept the whole bag.
Right. Yeah. I
And,
mean, you're already in.
mhm.
You're already
And
in.
apparently, Mr. State Trooper had no way of finding you. He had a way to get your number because you gave it to him.
Right.
Well, you gave it to the other deputy, but still, you gave it to them. That's how they had her number. Other than that, they had no way of finding you. And you
Good
just
God,
left
that's so true.
California.
Oh my God.
You just moved, and they don't know where you're moving to.
Oh, I guess the only thing, right? That's right, because they don't have an address yet.
Hmm.
So
But
they
it is the
even if they
fear of
had
being
all
chased
the,
by a drug lord. I get it.
but it's really just being chased by an elderly cop that's
I mean,
a drug lord. that
Yeah.
would have never been able to find you in Texas had you just gone to Texas after. Oh my
Now don't
god,
get me
dude.
wrong. Now once they found that part out, hey, I'm skating on Paw Paw.
Right.
I'm skating, but I understand that for Brenda, her fear is her family is being stalked by plausibly Mr. Cross, who could be a Spanish drug lord. Which again, wow, wow. And the only reason it's even alluded to that it could be a Spanish drug lord is the guy who originally is like, tell Mr. Cross we appreciate his assistance, and the
Mhm.
guy who gets killed. And so initially, the prejudice is triggered off in our head that we're must be some type of cartel situation. No, no, not at all.
Apparently
It's not
not.
what it is.
Yeah.
But so yeah, no. I can say, and I will say, um, this movie didn't really impress me, or it really didn't entertain me. I probably had more fun talking about it than watching it.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. Well, I think we've said all that we can say. I think it's all there is left to do now is to get to our verdict, man. So,
Yes, indeed.
do you want to start? Do you want me to go? How do you want to do this?
It doesn't matter. There was a lot of corny
It
lines
doesn't
in
matter.
this. It doesn't. There was a lot of corny lines in this too, like lines that were seriously unnecessary.
Mm,
I'm not even gonna go in on some of them, but just a lot of corniness.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll start. So overall, I did not hate this movie, but I would not recommend it. Um, I can't say I would watch it again. If it's running in the background somewhere and I glance and I see it on, I'll be like, "Oh, you watching this? All right." But awkwardly within saying that, I would say still support. If Millicent, the director, were to have some other work coming out and I were to see it, I would still check out what that is. The next Chris Bridges movie, the next Queen Latifah movie, I'm still interested in checking out. So this didn't hell, the next Bo Bridges movie. But yeah, so nothing necessarily destroyed my concept for what the people who made this movie put into it. But I can't say that I would actively choose to do this twice.
Mhm.
I like the cinematography. There was just too many questions as far as the story. We kept going in different directions. I felt like it was about 6 different episodes of Animaniacs, and if you've ever watched Animaniacs, you
Yeah,
know there's already about 6 episodes in every episode of Animaniacs.
that's right.
So that's really what this movie felt like. Like there was a lot of opportunity and direction that we were headed, and every time we got to a point where we could make a decision to make this the storyline, we would bring up something new. So yeah, with that being said, dang, I don't have a rating for this. It's not Empty Man, so I'm not saying when I say I don't have a
Not
rating, I
yet.
don't mean that. Yeah, not yet. I get us a 3.5.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. That's kind of where I'm feeling it too, to be honest. I feel like there are some bones in this that might be decent or could have had the potential to kind of either go in the thriller route or sort of the family drama route or somewhere in between that. I just don't think it executed anything in particularly well. All of the stuff we've seen before, you know, Queen Latifah and Chris are great, and I don't dislike them for this movie. I just feel like this movie kind of insults everybody who's involved. You know, like it's just not like it makes, and it, like I think it even insults the director. To be honest, like I think it's an insult to the director that this movie exists because it's just not a good representation of any of the people who participated in it. And I'm sure they're actually, you know, like decent, good people that want to, you know, excel in their art. I just feel like this became this weird corporate soulless thing that is trying to clearly say something, but in the most sterile corporate type of way that has no soul to it. It has no, yeah. It has no perspective. It has all of the perspectives that you would find on the back of a Coca-Cola box, or
Oh,
whatever. Yeah.
yes. With you saying that, I have to say you just made me think this might be the Black Family Pepsi commercial. Does that make sense?
It kind of does. Yeah, yeah.
It's like, hey, here's the perfect example of how a Black family would handle this, but it's kind of not the
Right.
perfect.
It's the corporation's interpretation
Yeah,
of how a black family would handle
yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And so, yeah, I think I'm in that ballpark too. I'm going to give this a 3. It's a 3. I like Queen Latifah, always have. I like Chris Bridges. I think he's got a good charisma. He's not a great actor, but I don't think that he can't improve. I
Right,
think he can get better if somebody just gives him a shot.
right.
And so, yeah, there are some things that I thought were decent, but cinematography wise, there were certain shots that I thought were really pretty. But there's just so much wrong with this movie that it doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough. So yeah, the 3 for me.
For sure. I will say, I hope it did enough for the pockets of everyone involved. One thing we do know is Netflix pays.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that this was one of their turn and burn ones, man.
Mm.
Because they're producing so many movies now. I don't think that they're paying everybody that well anymore.
Oh, I we'll talk about
Oh,
that
are
more.
you okay? All right. I'm
I've
sure.
been looking at some numbers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
um. So yeah, overall that gives us a 6 out of 20, which gives us a 3
3.
wholeheartedly.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We approached this movie in different ways. We ended in the exact same place. Um, and I think if I'm being honest, I think if we were to personally revisit a skeleton of a movie and see if we could improve upon it, this could be in that, because this literally, in my opinion, gives you all the template you need to build upon for
Yeah.
any direction you want to go.
I agree. I think that there's some decent ideas here that could have really been made to shine. I just feel like whatever the corporate message was got got in the way of the story.
Hmm.
It's so heavy-handed with its perspective that again doesn't even feel like an organic black perspective. It feels like what Netflix thinks black people should think,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where I jeer. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Hey,
So
just know I was right there with you, and you said it
yeah.
before I did, so it doesn't translate like, oh, he's just unhappy. Like,
Yeah,
no.
no. Like I want people to make great art. I want people to make great movies. I want people to succeed. I don't want to shit on shit just because like I'm really not that type of guy. But when something's blatant, you just have to be honest about it because that's the only way things improve. You know,
Yeah.
if we sort through this stuff and we say, "Oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that," that's where we start to build something really nice. So you got to be honest, and this just wasn't it.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
I firmly agree.
All right, man. Well, you got anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap this?
Um, if there is a soundtrack, I hope, even if Chris and Dana do not no, excuse me, if Ludacris and Queen Latifah do not partake, I would love for Chris and Dana to have written something for it. That would be
Oh, they
awesome.
have to have a song on it. I mean that would be crazy if they didn't have a song on it.
You know, I
Yeah,
hope they weren't
yeah.
on some like, oh, we're not doing music type stuff. Like, I know one of them got a
Uh
mobile studio. That's all I'm saying. I just want to
yeah.
see Chris and Dana, written by Chris and Dana. That's all I want to see.
You don't even have to do a full song. You just, make it like a
Yeah.
minute 30,
Man, I take a demo reference that never got
Right.
released. I just need it. I just need to know it happened.
Right. Yeah.
Give it to me in an interview. It didn't get released, but that y'all talked about it somewhere. Go to Drink Champs, one of y'all.
There
Everybody,
you
they
go.
tell Nori everything on Drink Champs.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of End of the Road movie review on Netflix, out now. We would say go check it out, but if you've been watching along with us, you know that that's not probably the best idea. But we do not control you. You're people of your own volition. So if you would like to go check it out, please go check it out. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with our take? Do you think that we're off base here? You can always let us know in the comments. We're more than happy to interact with you guys and hear your feedback. It means a lot to us, and we always read when you guys interact with us. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We appreciate all of you out there. Thank you. Thank you. Special thanks to, we had one comment here from Tyshana Dayward. Thank you for your comment. We really appreciate it. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you so much. We are here every Wednesday and Sunday, 8:30 p.m. You can catch us here on Screen Time Continuum on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Rumble. We are also adding a day, either Friday or Saturday, for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. So stay tuned for that as well. We are a part of a network of podcasts that we do with our friends. You can catch them all at Think Ring Talks on Facebook, or you can catch us individually at let's see. I'm going to start with If Numbers Could Talk with Keelan. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. If Numbers Could Talk with Keelan, Tuesday nights. Wednesday and Sunday is Screen Time Continuum. You already know that. Tuesdays and Thursdays is Dijon the Mustard over at Strawberries and Coffee on Twitch. You can catch him 10:30 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Strawberries and Coffee on Twitch. Friday nights is Exofathom at 8 p.m. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, some other places as well. Lots of places over at Exofathom, Friday nights, 8 p.m. Then we got This Married Moment with Bobby and Keelan, and that is Saturday around noon. Check them out. Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. Subscribe to This Married Moment every Saturday around noon. Always giving you great content over there. So check them out. Again, Saturday at noon, This Married Moment. All right, guys. I think that's it for our plugging. Thank you so much for checking us out. And we hope that you have a wonderful evening or whenever you're checking us out tonight, today, this morning. Have a great one. Thank you for tuning in to Screen Time Continuum. For Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
And I am Keelan.
Good night.